When you like Ventura TV Appliance on Facebook, it's nice. But when you love the Samsung big screen we deliver, it's even better. Our website is cool, and it's a good place to start. But you really should touch the merchandise before you buy. Time for that upgrade to an HD 3D web-enabled Samsung TV. Get the best selection, price, and service in town without waiting. Come in to Ventura TV Appliance and touch the merchandise today.
Hi, I'm John Mallows. Welcome to this live edition of Connect with Me on the showroom floor on this Monday morning. It's on the air off the presses today. An author is in the house. She's authored several books and co-authored them with Pat Hunter. She was a guest here a couple of weeks back. 436-ME-TV, option 11. Do call in. We actually have two guests in the studio today. We're back in just a moment.
Tonight I want to discuss the importance of the television medium to the American people.
Back here on the program live on the showroom floor at Ventura TV on this Monday morning. It is on the air off the presses, and you're watching us on Comcast 187, 43.6, and of course now live on 13.1. That is also Me TV. And you might remember a couple of weeks back we interviewed a gal by the name of Pat Hunter. She was on this program, a wonderful guest. By the way, before I get into the topic, I kind of jumped ahead of myself. We're here for the full 60 minutes, and I do want to mention in the second half of the program, we have a couple of guests coming on. I think two guests coming on. We're going to kind of change the topic and talk about a golf tournament that is a charity to benefit an 8-year-old boy out in Sanger. So stay tuned for that. But right now, to our first guest of the day. She has authored 7 books, mainly concerning the history of California and the Central Valley. She has another book that's coming out in November. That has to do with Highway 1 along the coast. Now, let's take you to some of the pictures that you will see there, some of the books that she has written. She has teamed with artist Pat Hunter, who was a guest back here a couple of weeks ago on Connect with Me, talking about her longtime collaboration, her trust, and her friendship with our guest today. Now, several other books she's written focus on the military, specifically World War II, veterans here in the Central Valley, but also it focuses on Korea to a certain extent, Vietnam, and the Cold War. These books are easy to read, like the old coffee table books with artwork and stories that are timely and interesting, and they contain information you may not have known about before. She's also a former educator, a writing instructor for state center community colleges. That includes Fresno City College. She's won a host of awards, including the prestigious Crystal Award. We'll talk about that. That's not all. She writes a column for Central Valley Magazine. That's a new magazine that is out and serves on the board of Heritage Fresno and on the Fresno County Historic Landmark and Records Commission. Live in our studio right now is Janice Stevens, a brilliant writer who has a vision for trying to get out that message to the readers. And the message that she will convey today will be to you, the viewer. 436-ME-TV, option 11 if you want to call in and question Pat about some of the books that she has written, and one coming out just in about, 3 to 4 weeks, next month in November, right before Thanksgiving. So call in, do turn down the sound. We're back with our program in a moment.
Euronews, most watched news channel in Europe.
I guess are we back live? Yes, we are. We're live here on the set. Anyway, we are not talking to Pat Hunter today. We are talking to Janice Stevens. I called you Pat like many times off the air, but who really cares? Pat Hunter, Janice Stevens, John Mallows. We're all here, right?
That's right.
We're all here in spirit. So how are you, Janice?
I'm great.
You look wonderful today.
Thank you. So do you.
Okay, thank you. So tell us about the books.
All right. Well, the history began in about 2006 when I was working with my veterans, and this was at the direction of Tom Wright, who is chairman of the board of Clovis Veterans Memorial District.
Yes.
And he decided that the mission of the Clovis Veterans Memorial District was always to feature and serve the veterans. And he thought, we need to tell their stories. We need to capture those stories.
All right.
So he approached me to come out and, as an instructor, a writing instructor, to work with these veterans to do just that. So my tremendous honor. We've been working with these veterans now, compiled 2 volumes of the stories of service, World War II veterans, and then Valley Veterans Remember World War II, and then Valley Veterans Remember World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and the Cold War.
Right. So Volume 1, Volume 2, this is circa what, 2006,
Started
you said?
2006, right.
Yeah.
And in the process of that, I think we started with just an idea of CVMD and me, with just the idea of just getting the stories down. However, my vision was to have them published.
And this was well before Honor Flight was even thought of around the Central Valley. And so what prompted you to write these books? I'm looking at 1 or 2 of them now, or Volume 1, Volume 2, only about 220 pages.
Right.
Roughly speaking, 200 pages plus.
Exactly.
So an easy read.
It's easy, but it's also a difficult read in that these stories are in the veterans' voices, and I do not edit them. It's exactly the way they
Verbatim.
told them. Exactly. And there's a
Hold on
little
here.
disclaimer in there that there might be an error in dates or times or places, but it's as they remember them, and we honor that. We honor that experience, and in that process, we see our history whitewashed so much in our schools, the textbooks, and so much as like maybe a paragraph or something on World War II. And this is an opportunity to preserve that history. And it's in their words, in those theaters of operation, such patriotism that these veterans exhibit. And to me, it just had to be out there. It had to be in a public arena, not just a private arena, not just shared with family and friends, but just out there in the public.
Give us an idea of some of the veterans that you spoke with and interviewed for these 2 books.
Well, one is a well-known name in our Clovis, Fresno area, Tink Kastner Schools.
Yeah.
He was one of the first veterans that came out. We started with a small group of about 6 veterans. The next week came to 8. And that group continues to meet. I continue to facilitate that organization. And his story was about his wife, his redheaded beautiful wife, Thelma. And in the process of gathering those stories, people find a place in this meeting that they're comfortable. They feel that camaraderie, they feel the empathy, and they're willing to share. I think that is probably the primary benefit that comes out of this, as well as having the history to bring down to future generations.
So was it easy to interview some of the military people? Because, you know, I'm sure you're well aware of what Paul Loeffler does with veterans on KMJ. Okay, he interviews them all the time, and sometimes I hear they get choked up.
Oh, sure.
Very difficult to talk about what happened during the war, especially when they saw many of their friends killed, maimed right in front of them. So was it difficult to get these guys to open up? Sometimes
they'll come in and sit there and be part of the group and never say a word, and might be just enjoy the fellowship, the coffee, the treats, and be part of it for maybe a year. And then all of a sudden the floodgates open, and it's difficult to even stop them, and I don't. I let them just share it. Paul Loeffler wrote the foreword to the 2nd volume there. Known Paul for a long time. Now he's doing an extraordinary job with coordinating the honor flights back to Washington, D.C. My privilege to be able to attend that in the 2nd flight under Al Perry, who is a bundle of enthusiasm, makes the trip a wonderful experience, honoring our World War II veterans.
Yeah. What prompted you to write the books about the veterans?
Being
Because
part of
why?
that, well, I started out as I
mean,
taught memo writing. I taught English comp
Yeah, but the
in the
veterans
colleges.
have been around for years. They've been. I mean, the war ended in '45.
Right.
Well,
Well,
why?
my dad was a World War II veteran, Aleutian Islands,
Okay.
but he never shared his story, ever. And we'd try to ask him, and he'd say, it was a long time ago. I don't want to talk about it.
Okay, I guess my question is, why did it take you so long? 2006.
Opportunity, when that moment comes.
It just was the right time.
It was. I'd been teaching memoir writing classes
Yeah.
for a long time, and Tom Wright came up with that vision, as I said earlier, and he said, I think we need to record these stories. So that was the moment of opportunity to go for it. And there is a regret that we don't get on this sooner. But there's a time and a place and an opportunity when people are willing to begin to share too.
Yeah, and so now you wrote two books, volume 1, volume 2.
Right.
But you did not interview the same veteran twice.
Only
They're
if
all-
they right. Only
they're all
if they
different.
served in the Korea, Vietnam, Cold War. There are a couple that are in the World War II book, strictly World War II book, that did the Korea, Vietnam, Cold War, and they are covered. I mean, there is a little excerpt from them.
Okay, but generally speaking,
Generally.
speaking, and how many World War II veterans would you say are left in our Central Valley?
Oh goodness, I don't remember that number.
I know the number is dwindling.
It is dwindling. I think it's 1,200 a day that we're losing.
I think that's
But-
nationwide, not here in the Valley, but
I think-
nationwide.
I think I better not even begin to say that
Yeah.
number, but it's thousands that are still out there, but they're getting pretty frail.
Yeah, they are.
So-
They're up there in their late 80s, early 90s,
Exactly.
mid 90s in some cases. And so what heartwarming story really struck a nerve with you? What's the one story that stands out? Would it be in volume 1 or volume 2?
Probably the volume 1, and the one that just immediately comes to mind was a story written by Ike Akita, Clovis boy, and he wrote the story of something about my blood is as red as yours. I think that's the title, something similar to that. And he served in intelligence, but of course the 442nd, this is Japanese boy in the 442nd, proved themselves above and beyond to such a great extent, and yet here's the other side of it, where they're interned and set aside and persecuted for being Japanese, and yet they're so patriotic. That touches me.
Family interned into the camp?
Part of his family was.
Part of his family was, but he served on
But-
the intelligence side.
Yes, he did.
For the U.S. military.
Right.
Was he ever questioned? Was he ever thought of as maybe, could this guy be part of the enemy?
I think his family was, definitely, and
he told that story.
the story's in there.
Story is in here, and his name again
is Ike Akita.
Ike Akita. And so, where can someone pick up these books? Right. Let me hold them up real quick. I have volume 1, volume 2 here, and where can they buy them?
They're available at Barnes & Noble. If they aren't out, sometimes
Okay.
they run out. Yeah, they have to order them again. Amazon.com, we have them at Gallery 2. They should be available anywhere. They're mainstream, so easy to find.
Right. We're going to be back with our program here on Connect with Me. We got a phone call? Hey, got a phone call? Okay. We'll come back after the phone call. We do have a phone call here. Good morning, caller. What's your question?
Hello?
Hello. Go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
hardly hear you.
Go ahead.
Hello? I'm watching this show about World War II. You know, my wife and I were in World War II. She was a young girl at the time, and I was being trained to go into World War in the Japanese theater. I was in high school, I was finishing school, and I was being trained to go in there. But unfortunately, or good for me, the war ended at that time.
Oh, yeah.
Are you there?
Yeah, we're here. We're just listening to your story. Go ahead.
And that was basically what it was. I just ended. I was being trained to go into World War II, the Japanese theater. That's
Yeah.
what I was being trained for.
Yeah,
Fortunately for me, everything ended at that time.
I understand. Well, there are all sorts. I appreciate the phone call very much. Thank you for watching, and all sorts of heartwarming stories out there.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
you got to think about writing a book about veterans, World War II veterans, maybe throughout the state. Not just the Central Valley, but
Right.
throughout the state of California. There's so many.
There are, and early on, about the same time I was getting into collecting these stories, Brandon Wright, who now does the multicultural studies, gathers the World War II, the veterans, and then the Hmong stories, Indian stories. He does a lot of that under the multicultural term. But he started with stories of service, and he would link a student, a high school student, with an adult mentor and a veteran to tell the story and put them on video. And a lot of those Paul Loeffler then put on TV with the stories of service on television before he did Hometown Heroes.
Yeah. Did you interview him on tape or how did you get there?
We have,
You did.
right. We have
Videotape or audio?
Videotape, audio. We've got a couple. I say it takes a village. So I've got Al Barrett, who runs the camcorder in my Monday morning group, Nancy Huey, who does tape recorder, Eileen Boss takes notes, and we
But
just
then you gotta
record that whole story.
siphon through the whole
Oh, it's
thing.
awful.
It's
The first story I
very
did that.
time-consuming.
It was awful. Now I sort of am demanding to say, please submit your story on a CG so I can easily get it into plays, because that transcription is really difficult. If you're in journalism, you know.
Just time-consuming.
It's just
You've got to get it right. You got to. The quote has to be exact. You have to
Exactly.
put it down on paper verbatim as they spoke into the microphone. So we're going to
Yes.
be back with Janice Stevens. Pat Hunter is not here today. She was here a couple of weeks ago, so you had a chance to talk to her. Now it's Janice's turn. 436-ME-TV, option 11. We'll explain the connection between the two in just a moment.
Considering solar? Whether you're ready to buy now or just exploring your options, the consultants at Solar Negotiators are here to help you. A call to Solar Negotiators is like calling 5 solar companies at once. You see, when local established solar contractors have gaps in their schedule, they call Solar Negotiators to fill them. Right now, get 5 years of panel cleaning and maintenance or $1,000 off your new solar panels. So stop wasting your time searching and call Solar Negotiators, because when contractors compete for your business, you win.
We're back here on the program talking about these two books, Volume 1 and 2, talking about military veterans, World War II veterans here in the Central Valley. The author is Janice Stevens, and you have not only written these books, two great books, which I'm going to borrow these and read them. I'll give them back to you the first of the year. Is that okay? I promise I will. I want to read these because my father was in World War II, and I'd love to read these. But if you get a chance, go to Barnes & Noble. But you also have written a collection of 7 other books. An 8th is actually on the way in November. I want to put some of those books up on the screen. We have a couple samples here in the studio, and I like to call these coffee table books. And they're books about Fresno's architecture, about Fresno's past. The list goes on. You wrote 3 in a series of books about Highway 1. This is the later, that's the one that's coming out in November, is that right? Or no?
No,
that's
one,
North.
that came out.
That's North.
Central.
Central is the one that's coming out in November, right? Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. What's that one about?
The Central? I call it Fresno on the beach.
Okay, let's put that up. Okay, what's it about?
I call it Fresno on the beach because Fresno loves the Central Coast, and they always go to Cayucas and Cambria and Morro Bay
Pismo.
and Pismo and that area. So we start at Bixby Bridge, where we started our north trek. We start the south trek at Bixby Bridge and cover the Big Sur area, Hearst Castle.
Well, what's it about? What's it about? Because Pat Hunter does all the artwork.
Yes.
Okay,
So
you do the writing.
Yes.
And the collaboration is like magic.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
It is magic. It's fun. I say I have to buy the book in order to see what I saw because I am the white knuckle driver on Highway 1. And
Why?
she's the one that because some of it can be kind of treacherous along those little curves on the roads that wash out.
All you have to
and
do
that
is take all the money you got, buy a Maserati, a convertible, a Maserati convertible, and just zoom around those curves.
Well, my publisher calls my car the spirited Mazda because it goes to
really?
a lot of these different
You can't
areas.
drive Highway 1 with a sedan. You got to have a sports car.
I know, it's as sporty as I could get.
Corvette.
And
Get
all
a
the
Corvette.
dogs and the paintings and all of that with us. See, there's one of those areas.
But
the
for those who
treacherous
haven't
area.
driven Highway 1, and I've driven it coast to coast. I mean, end to end. Let's
Yes.
put it that, not coast to coast.
Yes,
End to end.
End to end. Good for you.
Okay, so people who haven't driven Highway 1, what are they missing?
Okay, what you're missing is some of the most extraordinary ocean vistas in the world. It is
Yeah.
world renowned, that whole area. What I like to cover in this area is not only look at the ocean and see these beautiful areas, but I like to cover the little quirky histories along the way, the communities that people aren't maybe as familiar with.
Such
I learn
as?
a lot. Such as in the North Book, there is the San Gregorio, which has a little motorcycle gang that gathers in every Saturday, Sunday, and they carry our books. It's kind of a fun little quirky area. Missions, absolutely. We did that in our mission book, all of the missions, but we cover some of the missions that are right there off of Highway 1.
Well, let me ask you this, and I'm not going to slam missions, but if you've seen one mission, haven't you seen them all?
No, we'll talk about the missions when you're ready for that.
I've
because
seen
they're all
one mission. Do I
different.
need to see a second?
You do. You need to see all 21 missions.
I have to?
Yes, you
Okay.
have to. It's
All
a
right.
must. It's a requirement.
All right. All right. Now, we know those are, I mean, I read about the missions in
Yeah.
history, of course, when I was in school, long time ago. And so how many pages is this one here, the central one that's coming out?
I think this is 144 pages.
Okay.
And I forget how many paintings Pat has, maybe 120 paintings in this one. Text is going to be about 30,000 words
Okay.
or so.
Let's say you pull up to a mission. You and Pat are in the car together, and she just draws from...
No, Pat, she likes to do on-site artwork, does a lot of workshops for that. But on these trips, we take pictures. She takes pictures. Sometimes I do a backup on my iPhone or another digital camera just to be sure we've got it. And
Okay. Well,
then she goes back
tell
to
me
the studio.
something that's in your book that I didn't read about in my history book in school, about the
Now,
missions.
About the missions.
Anything.
Okay, what
didn't I
learned-
learn in school?
What I didn't learn, speaking for myself, is that I didn't know about the assistencias, and people will say, well, what's that? Well, an assistencia, you didn't have to, I did. But an assistencia is a submission related to the mission. And
It's an offshoot,
It's an
of
offshoot.
the original
see,
mission.
you do know.
Yes.
You read the book, right?
No, I didn't, but I mean, stands to reason,
Yeah,
right?
it is an offshoot of the missions. The lands, the mission lands, were extensive enough that the padre just wasn't able to be at both places at the same time. So they would start these little missions, and he would visit the side missions to control that area.
All right, caller, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Question to Janice. You know,
Dennis?
years
Oh,
years
Janice.
ago, my daughters, when they were, I guess 7 or 8, I used to chaperone with the teachers, where they would call me, and I loved it because they would love to chaperone. And one colony that I really loved was San Juan Bautista. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
Oh,
It's a
absolutely.
mission.
Sure.
It's like going up to Gilroy somewhere. I just can't remember. But when they were like, maybe 6, 7, 8 years old, every year they would want me to, go there and chaperone. And that's a beautiful place. But here in the valley too, you talk about, like the underground garden. Years ago, how it was real popular. And
Forestry gardens?
Going towards Reedley, where on Reed, where nowadays there used to be Christmas tree, and you can go there and buy them. But now they made a train taking kids around and around, and areas like that. You can go to Yosemite any time of the year, but San Juan Bautista, a beautiful place.
Sure.
And
Sure.
just in towns that, underground garden was a popular place in there.
Sure.
And what I would do is, like you would do, maybe it'd be great to take an RV and, like yourself, go around, the states, get your, take photos and do your stories that way, But,
Okay.
I'm interested in these stories. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the call. I appreciate it very much. And where can they get some of these books?
Okay, these also Barnes & Noble, anywhere, Amazon.com, any mainstream bookstore, little side gift stores, Gallery 2 has them, so they are available. And we do just what this gentleman was saying on that. San Juan Bautista is one of our inland missions and has wonderful reenactments, historical days, great place to go visit.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to be back with Janice Stevens, and she wrote several books along with Pat Hunter. Pat Hunter does the, of course, the artist rendition of all those missions and everything else that you see in some of these books. And Janice does all the writing. 436-ME-TV option 11. We're back in just a moment.
Tune in to Heartland for the best in true country music. Relive vintage specials, one-of-a-kind concerts, and country music's earliest videos. Heartland is the heart of country. The only place where you can find country music, country stars, and country lifestyles 24/7. Heartland, the heart of country.
Now on channel 13.2.
Hey, we're back here on the program, 436-ME-TV option 11. So on the collaboration, how did you and Pat get together?
Well, that goes way back a million years ago when our kids were in kindergarten together.
Yeah.
And we became friends and traveled all over the area. And how we started, well, Pat's husband and family worked in Victorville. We moved to Portland. They moved to Santa Rosa, that sort of thing. It's a long history. But we both ended up in the Fresno area. And when Pat was doing some subbing at Tenaya, she was offered a long-term class on teaching math. And I said, oh, that's terrible. Sorry, math people. Because I thought, you're an artist. We need to do art. And I'd had a couple years of business and thought, well, that makes me a pro in business, right? A novice all the way. So we decided to open up a business. And we'd been in business, and now we're just celebrating our 35th year of being in business with Gallery 2. And Pat had done some history. We started with the Fresno's history in McDonald's restaurants. They commissioned her to do so she probably covered about that. So that's how the Fresno book started, was with let's bring the art to the people in a book.
But the military books came first, right?
The military, one of them the military first, and our publisher
and the history books came later.
Came second. It was like a year kind of, it was boom, 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 several right within a few years. The Stories of Service started with Richard Sorsky, who was introduced, which one would you like?
Anyone, historian.
Okay. He was interested. He approached Brandon about doing Stories of Service. Brandon said, Janice Stevens is already doing that. So I met with Richard, and as we were walking out of this particular building, I said, do you do other publications? We have this book, Fresno's Architectural Past, or whether we're calling it something else at that time. And he said, well, I thought you'd already published that because I saw the news in the paper. And so he picked that one up. So we started with the first book, Stories of Service. Second book was Fresno's Architectural Past.
Yeah. Okay. That was the first one.
Yes.
It's about the architecture, of course, here in the city of Fresno. And some of it dates way back.
Yes.
Okay, now you did this one, William Saroyan.
William Saroyan, Places and Time. That came about, the inspiration for that was that Pat had been given permission to use when the stamp came out, the collector's stamp on William Saroyan, which was issued in Armenia and the United States at the same time. Pat was given permission to use that stamp on a pen and ink drawing she had done of William Saroyan's boyhood home.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really a kind of a neat deal. We were invited to the celebrations of all of that. And when the centennial was being talked about for William Saroyan, I said, we need to do something on that. So I approached our publisher and said, this is a great opportunity to portray William Saroyan, born and died here in Fresno. Great literary genius, doesn't get enough credit, I don't think. So let's draw attention to him. So it was really a cram rush job. Bought lots of books, did lots of research.
That a lot has been written about William Saroyan?
No, I don't think enough has been done about William Saroyan.
What could you possibly write about him that people don't already know?
What I think is the benefit of this, and you mentioned earlier the coffee table classics, that's what we do. Our publicity man calls it a brand. And
so you have a brand.
It's a brand,
Okay.
exactly. And Pat portrays where William Saroyan grew up, Fresno. He's written Fresno Stories, My Name is Aram. I mean, there's so many great works that William Saroyan has done. So Pat captured these in the visual form, and I did a brief literary history using quotes from some of his work and capturing where he was at certain times when those works came out. The grapes that introduce each chapter was kind of a fun thing, because I told Pat that I think the grapes would be an idea to feature these chapters, because when William Saroyan was in Armenia at one time, he was eating some grapes and he picked them up and he squished them. He said, these are good, but they're nothing like the grapes of Fresno.
Yeah, and I just want to take a close-up of this, if we can get a close-up of that.
Sure.
Each chapter starts with a picture or an artist rendition of grapes. And I don't know if you can see that, like right up here, right up there. Each chapter starts with an artist rendition of grapes, and the significance of that is the story that you just told about William Saroyan.
Exactly.
Saying nothing tastes like the grapes here in Fresno or the Central Valley.
Exactly.
Okay.
And what was unusual about that, when I suggested this to Pat, it was winter. Grapes are dormant. Then there's nothing happening. There aren't any grapes available. So she went to this, I don't know, a farmer's market or something, got some grapes from out of the area, picked a little vine and moved those grapes around into different areas, stuck it in a glass of water, moved it around, and created these different images of the grapes for the variety of it. And then when we had our opening and reception launching this book, she brought that little piece of vine that had sprouted. So it's really a neat little story about those,
so you got
those grapes.
Yeah, you have not a picture, but Pat drew a painting of right there, Hotel Fresno. Very interesting, and don't know what time frame that would be, but we got to take a break, Janice.
Yeah, okay.
Janice Stevens is our guest here. She authored many books, including 2 on servicemen here in the Central Valley. We're back with our program, 436 MeTV, option 11, in just a moment.
It's Sully and Russ on the Big Biz Show.
It's your biz.
And maybe they'll start listening to Baldwin McCullough.
Now, before you make any money moves, check in with the Brain Trust.
And you are starting your week off right.
And I called this the Hotel Fresno. It's actually the Hotel California. When I first moved to Fresno, I did a very unflattering story about the Hotel California here, and how it's, has actually gone downhill after many years, and it was the toast of the town at one time, but now it's part of the dreaded downtown scene here in the city of Fresno. But what can you do, right?
Well, I'm big on up with Fresno and downtown Fresno. I am.
Okay.
And even the Hotel Californian's been renovated and looks beautiful. It's kind of on the Fulton Mall area.
It was actually renovated many, many years ago, but the traffic going in and out is what I focused on.
Not good.
Not good.
That's a good story.
We don't want to get into that. We don't talk about
we
your
better
books.
not. Okay.
No, we're here to talk about your books. And so you talked about the collaboration, how you guys got together, you and Pat Hunter. And so how do you decide when you, I use the missions only as a reference point, but when you pull up to a mission and now Pat is in the car or wherever she is, she's out there drawing, okay?
Or taking a photo.
Are you writing like on the spot? Are you like taking notes like
a reporter?
Notes.
Yes, I do.
You're like a reporter.
Sort of.
Yeah.
I do that, some of that. But yes, I do take notes.
And you write when you get back. You don't write it on the spot.
No.
You write when you get back.
Right. And part of that is the research along the way. I'll be researching and looking up information and getting into all sorts of histories on a particular thing, and I'll suggest to Pat, look for this particular vignette or whatever architectural detail that might be significant in a painting. So we go back and forth on, she says this would make a great painting, and I say this has great history.
But have you ever pulled up to a site, whether it's a mission or any place else, and you say to yourself, I never read about this in the history books. I never read about this online, about this particular site. And it's sight seen, on scene.
Sure.
When you see it, it's something new. Has that happened?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And you write about that
and
particular event or whatever
discoveries.
happens there?
To me, I grew up in Santa Cruz. I thought I knew the coast. I thought I knew all of those areas, and I discovered all kinds of things.
But do you discover things on site that you didn't read about?
Yeah, I'm trying to come up with an example. Of course, I mentioned the Asistencias, which were on site that I wasn't aware of. I find like an old tree that might have been the old olive tree at San Antonio Mission that had been there, I don't know, they think original 200 years about. And I think, oh, wow. Didn't remember reading about that and seeing it. The significance of seeing something that dates back 200 years is really awe-inspiring.
Okay, let me ask you something.
Okay.
You have to have the passion to do this and an enthusiasm for history to do it.
Yes.
You can't be, pretty much passive with your attitude about history to write a book like this or several like this, right?
Right, exactly, and I am.
So where do you get the passion from?
I don't know, God-given maybe?
Yeah.
It's there. I just get really excited.
Because you've got that sparkle and that enthusiasm about, I can see it in your face, I can hear it in your voice. So where does that come from?
I don't know. I don't know where it comes from other than, as I said, God-given, because I get very excited about recording. I'm being called a historian, and I am not. I mean, I was an English major. I was a writer. I'm a writing teacher. I don't see myself as a trained historian, and yet, boy, I love history. And even when I was in school, I loved doing the literary analyses that everybody would dread. I love the history part. I love the research part of it. So just kind of who I am.
It takes time, though, to do research. It takes a lot of time and effort. Just like any journalist who does time and research on whatever they're going to be talking about, it takes an enormous amount of time, and that's the difficult part. It's actually more difficult than the actual writing part of it.
It is. You're absolutely right. And then taking all of the history that you can do and coordinating it and making it cohesive and a narrative that's pleasing to read, engaging, has the appropriate hook to get a reader into it. It's all challenging.
Hey, if we can, let's zip through some of the video of all the books, just like fast motion, and put all the books up on the screen there, and there they are right there, and just go through them one by one really quick so we can see them. You've got 8 in all, and the latest one coming out, Highway 1 Central, which is coming out in November.
Correct.
All right.
Absolutely.
And November what?
We don't know. Publishing is always kind of that variable. We've been told about the 3rd week of November, but we also thought it'd be out in September.
Yeah. Well,
so
things get delayed.
It in November.
Yeah,
things
that's
happen.
okay. Before Thanksgiving.
Before Thanksgiving, before the holidays, absolutely.
Yeah, and Stories of Service, those are out. They've been out since 2006, 2007, volumes 1 and volumes 2. Very, very nice job. I mean, and so what's just quickly beyond Highway 1 Central? We got like 30 seconds left. Anything else in the future plans?
Sure. We have to finish the series on Highway 1. The next one we'll be diving right back into is the Highway 1 South.
Okay.
As soon as this one
what about
Central
up north?
is launched, we've done north. We went
way up north, Fort Bragg?
Yes, we went clear up to Crescent City, so it's kind of...
Okay, so name the 3. You got Central, North. I mean, you got Central, North, and South will be coming.
It's Highway 1 and beyond. In the north, goes clear up to the Oregon border.
That's
Central
great.
is coming in, goes down to Ventura, and then we pick up Ventura, go all the way down to the Mexican border.
Wow, so it covers the gamut.
The gamut of the California coast.
All right, end to end.
End to end.
It's
Bookmarks.
the series.
Yes.
Janice, so
pleasure.
pleasing to see you.
Thank you.
All right, you're so energetic, and I hope it just it wears off on all of us
Hope
here.
so too.
All right, thank you, Janice
thank you.
Stevens.
Privilege.
And we've got 2 more guests coming up here on Connect with Me. It's a charity golf tournament for a young boy, an 8-year-old boy here in the Central Valley. 436 MeTV option 11. We're back in a few moments.
Tough TV is the first digital broadcast network to offer first-run original programming targeted at men. Tough TV features content that men are passionate about. Sports.
No matter what happens in the fight, oh, good right, left. Coming on strong.
Lifestyle.
What we've done is we've created a technology that allows us to run video games in extremely powerful servers in server centers.
drama.
Did you cause this?
Reality.
Welcome to this edition of Eye for an Eye. Now, today in court, we have the case of the reckless brother who tried to unravel his own family ties.
Talk.
Bam, we have a winner.
Specials.
I'm Dick Butkus. Welcome to the Butkus Awards TV special.
And movies.
Everybody on your knees, put your hands on the table.
Sports, lifestyle, drama, reality, talk, specials, and movies. Are you tough enough?
Frigidaire. We introduced the first home freezer, the first pulsator agitator washer, and now we introduce the Frigidaire Orbit Clean dishwasher, designed with a unique wash arm that gives you 4 times more water coverage for a consistently better clean. Frigidaire, over 90 years of legendary innovation.
See the full line of Frigidaire appliances at Ventura TV Electronics and Appliances.
Welcome to a new beginning. An adventure that goes well beyond passive diversions. Empowering through exploration. Engaging your passions. Inspiring with lives lived outdoors. Come with us. Untamed Sports TV.
You can find Untamed Sports on over-the-air channel 13.8.
Considering solar? Whether you're ready to buy now or just exploring your options, the consultants at Solar Negotiators are here to help you. A call to Solar Negotiators is like calling 5 solar companies at once. You see, when local established solar contractors have gaps in their schedule, they call Solar Negotiators to fill them. Right now, get 5 years of panel cleaning and maintenance or $1,000 off your new solar panels. So stop wasting your time searching and call Solar Negotiators, because when contractors compete for your business, you win.
You can find movies on over-the-air channel 13.3. Movies. Our name says it all.
We're back here with the second half of Connect with Me here on the showroom floor at Ventura TV on this day. And of course, you're watching us on Comcast channel 187, 43.6, and now live on 13.1. The replays come later at 2 and at 8 o'clock tonight. And so the second part of our program, we need your help. Our second guests today, and we have 2 of them here in the studio, looking for help to raise money for their 8-year-old son who is suffering from Marfan syndrome. What is that? Let's put up the picture of this 8-year-old boy. It is a rare connective tissue disorder, and in most cases it is serious. It can affect the heart valves, the aorta. It can be life-threatening to a certain extent depending on the case. Donovan Rivas is the young boy who suffers from that disorder, and next week there's going to be a golf tournament to help raise money not only for Donovan but for other families here in the Central Valley. Donovan is in a wheelchair part-time at this point. In the beginning, his parents knew there was something terribly wrong. Suspicions were eventually found to be true. And the charity event for Donovan will take place on October the 11th at Sherwood Forest Golf Country Club in Sanger. There's going to be a silent auction as well. His parents are now live in the studio now. Kerry and Ron, they are the parents of Donovan Rivas, and they are asking for your help in raising money for their 8-year-old boy. This is kind of a rare disease, and we'll talk about that. We'll get into the specifics of it and how it affects your body, how it affects your heart. 436-ME-TV, option 11. Any questions? They're going to inform you how you, the viewing public, can help. We're back with our program here in just a moment. back here on the program with Kerry and Ron Rivas and their son Donovan, suffering from this rare disease. And I said it's Marfan syndrome, of course, in the opening. Good morning to both of you. How are you?
Good.
Good. It's actually a similar, it's kind of an offshoot of Marfan, right?
Correct.
Okay, explain.
It's called Fritz-Goldberg syndrome, and it's a genetic defect in the SCI1 gene, which affects the fibrillin and other. So the defect comes before the fibrillin 1 defect.
Right, and
So
I want to explain that because people probably sitting at home probably wondering, what are you talking about? What does all that mean? Right. It's like mumbo jumbo to them, but it's medical terms. And basically what this is, it's really the connective tissue disorder is what it is, right?
Correct.
To the nerves. And it can affect your heart. It can affect your aorta. What else?
It affects everything. Your whole body's cellular glue, so that's what connective tissue is. It can affect everything from your bones, your ligaments, your muscles, your internal organs. So therefore, he has like an aneurysm in his heart. He gets holes in his lungs. He has bone defects, which has osteopenia, and bones aren't fully formed, or they're formed looking different.
Okay, and keep his picture up there because I want to explain a little bit about what I read about this over the weekend. The disease is caused by the misfiling of the protein that's called fibrillin. That's F-I-B-R-I-L-L-I-N. That is the protein that forms the fibers in the connective tissue in our body from head to toe.
Correct.
So that's the disorder that he has. It's not connecting properly, and there's a misfiring there.
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
What kind of medical treatments has your son gone through?
Oh, man, she's probably better at answering than I.
Yeah, but she's done most of the talking so far. So, Ron, we got to hear from you too.
Boy.
Oh, no offense.
You know, honestly, I'll leave that part up to her. She is really good with explaining everything that he's been through.
Yeah.
From the time of diagnosis to all the procedures that he's been through.
And she's very articulate at it, too.
Yeah,
so.
a lot more than I am.
Yeah. Talk about some of the medical procedures, if you would, Kerry. What has your poor son gone through? He's only 8 years old.
I know.
My God.
At 2, he went through a craniotomy.
What is that?
It's where they removed part of his skull because his head closed up too soon.
Okay.
And he formed a ridge from here to here.
How old was he when that happened?
He was 4 months when they noticed it.
Boy.
And we went and saw someone and was given misdiagnosis. So then he was chronically
Was that here
sick.
in Fresno? Or
Yes.
Did you have to take him outside to Fresno?
Yes. To Stanford.
Where? Stanford. That's what I thought.
A lot of travel.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of travel back and forth.
And so there, when we saw the neurosurgeon at Stanford, they said his head's not growing. We did the surgery, so they cut from ear to ear. They removed the skull. They put it back with plates and screws and had to rebuild his eye sockets on the top. Otherwise, they were flat, so his eyes would start bulging.
He was only 4 months?
He was
Two, just
2
under.
by the time we.
Yeah, he just turned 2 when that surgery took place.
So is he going back and forth to Stanford now, still with treatments, or what kind of treatments would he be taking at this point?
They finally released him last year for the skull, but he still sees a cardiologist locally here and there as well for his heart, as he has some prolapsing of his valves and an aneurysm in his heart.
Is that eventually going to get worse?
Yes.
It is?
Yes. Because
so how do you stay on top of it? What do you do?
Lots of medical appointments. Every 6 months he gets an echocardiogram. He takes medication daily. In fact, he takes up to 7 medications daily.
And will there be surgery anytime in the near future for his heart? Will there be heart surgery?
It's one of those things you just don't know. It depends how rapid things want to be, or if we get in a car accident. Basically, if we were in a car accident and his aneurysm were to burst, we'd lose him.
To give you an idea, Donovan's disease name came from something we obviously made up because nobody at the time, even the Dr. Curry,
the geneticist
at Fresno State, at the time took his case to a national convention, had no idea what it was, so therefore we named it Donovan's disease just so we could give it a name, identify it, and of course he was diagnosed a couple years ago with Spritz-Goldberg syndrome. And I think we're just trying to give families, make them aware of how, what they can look for as far as some of the traits, some of the things just to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, and Spritz-Goldberg is kind of an offshoot of Marfan. Are there any other offshoots or symptoms to Marfan that you can attribute that to?
Well, there's another disease called Loeys-Dietz.
Okay.
Which has some similar features to Marfan's, but they have their own set of features. So they have translucent skin, so you can see veins. Their skin is stretchy, silky. When they scar, their scars widen and stretch.
Yeah. But they both fall under the same umbrella.
Yes, connective tissue disease.
They're connected to, and it's it's a terrible thing to name a disease after a young boy. Right. It's almost like Lou Gehrig, one of the greatest all-time athletes ever.
Well, at the time,
Lou Gehrig's disease.
At the time, they had no name for it. Like I said,
yeah.
They took it to a national convention. They were all scratching their head. They had no idea. So when she came back, said right now it just may become Donovan's disease. That's how Loeys-Dietz came about. Those are two doctors that came up with another strain, and he actually got to meet Dr. Loeys and Dr. Dietz. Dr. Dietz actually monitors him very closely from Johns Hopkins.
Was it Stanford that properly diagnosed what he had?
No, it was Johns Hopkins, Dr. Dietz from Johns Hopkins.
Okay.
Stanford knew there was something genetic going on, and who prompted us to see geneticists. And
what did they tell you here in Fresno in terms of misdiagnosis? What did they think he had?
Marfan's.
Okay.
Marfan's, or possibly they also called it mixed connective tissue disease.
Okay.
Because they just didn't know, and they tested him for Marfan's and he was negative, and they tested him for Loeys-Dietz and he was negative, and that's how we ended up at Johns Hopkins, because they specialize in connective tissue disease.
Okay, got a call coming in. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to direct us questions to them both. You know, the Lord gave you a lot of strength, and I can understand the mother going through being the mother, you know, and take care of the son and also the father. But people don't realize the hurt that you go through. Nobody will. You know, the Lord has given you guys so much strength and trying to give your son more love and happiness, you know, because you never know. The thing is that, you know, it's something that none of us could feel the pain that you go through, but you know, God will be there with you, and He'll be with you with your son too. You know, I feel for you, and I know there'll be a good turnout for you. And but you're a strong woman. I can tell just by seeing you and the way you talk about your son, and you know, he's going through a lot. You know, and you have to understand that you have to be there for him, love him, and you know, just let him be a boy.
Absolutely.
And I feel inside my heart too that if I had a son going through that pain and all that, you know, I can tell you're strong, and I'm glad that the Lord has two great parents, and that's all I want to say.
Thank you. That's a great call. I appreciate it very much. Yeah, I think we got to take a break and come back here on Connect with Me. 436 Me TV, option 11. Back in a moment. All right, back here with our two guests right now, and talking about this dreaded disease. It's actually called Spritz-Goldberg, but it's an offshoot of Marfan syndrome, of course. It falls under the same umbrella. And Kerry is here, Ron is here, your son is Donovan. We had that last caller, very heartwarming call from one of our viewers, but put up the picture of Donovan one more time. Talk about his demeanor and what his personality is like and how he has handled this unfortunate situation.
I'm going to say he's truly a gift from God and is our gift to share with the world. And he's given him, he is, anybody he comes across, he touches their hearts.
All right, stop right here. Who are these people here? Who are family members? Who are we looking at on the screen here?
At the bottom is our daughter Rain with her puppy Charlie.
Okay.
Up above is Donovan with his brother Ronnie.
Oh.
And then myself, and then Ron, my husband.
Right, right. How long ago was that photo taken?
2 years ago?
2 years ago.
A couple of years back.
Yeah.
Yeah, very nice. And here is Donovan with his sister?
Rain. And that was last year.
Yeah, yeah. So he has a sister and an older brother as well.
Correct.
Okay, so does, I mean, for the lack of a better term, does he act like any other kid?
That's him. He is, wow.
He can't, I mean, mentally, yes.
Yeah.
Physically, no. Which is difficult because he has hypermobile joints. So therefore, he's in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
Mentally, he wants to do something, but physically, he realizes his limitations and can't.
Right.
He'll realize it that night or the next morning, and
Well,
he could be
he's-
down for a couple days.
Now that he's gotten older, he kind of knows how to, when it's time to slow down.
Yeah, he's learning how to manage himself.
Yeah. Well, as he gets older, he'll understand what are the limits, what
Right.
can I do, what can't I do. Let's talk about the golf tournament. Takes place on the 11th of October, Sherwood Forest Golf Country Club in Sanger. What do you hope to do with the money?
Well, I guess I can handle this one.
Okay. Yeah.
A friend of mine came to me and said, "Hey, let's do a golf tournament." A friend of mine named Doug Plaster and Skis Recycling is really helping out with this. So it's going to be a two-man scramble. We're hoping to raise some money not only for some of Donovan's travel needs, but other families as well, because insurances just don't cover. When you get referred to a specialist, if you have to go to Cedars-Sinai, Stanford, any one of the big
Johns Hopkins.
Johns Hopkins. That was another one. We had another company step up. I don't mind to do a plug for Brownie Baker. They were really generous in getting us there. But insurances don't pay for that. They don't pay for the gas. They don't pay for the hotel stay. Sometimes families
pay for the medical though, but
they pay for the medical portion,
but not the travel expenses, and the medical maybe only so much.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, not necessarily the medical either.
Right.
So.
But
what kind of insurance? Now, let me ask you: how has the new Obamacare affected you?
Can we move on?
Better or worse?
Worse.
Well, a lot worse. A lot worse.
They don't cover as much.
It's harder to get what you need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything's
because
through a
he's so
process.
unique. But
give the telephone number out if you would, if people want to talk or talk to you and ask you about the golf tournament. Quickly, we have 10 seconds.
559-940-0407. That's my number. You can contact me directly, and we're taking sign-ups through today and tomorrow.
Yeah. No offense, Ron. Let her handle the complex issues, okay? Bit of advice for you there.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm
Believe
kidding.
me. That's why
Kerry,
I sit
thank you
here.
so much.
you.
Ron,
Thank you, John. Appreciate
God bless you guys.
God bless
Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you.
And it is Kerry and Ron Rivas. You can help out by going to the golf tournament October the 11th. Back with another edition of this program tomorrow here on Connect with Me. Have a great day.